Let's have the wisdom of the
Hmm.
crowd and not trust blindly in a single person or a single founder. It personally comes from me because I don't want to have that
Totally.
responsibility. I want to be the heart of the company. I want to have the vision. I want to bring the right people together in order to accomplish the
Totally.
mission. And that mission is really important to me. But I don't know if I want to be the person responsible for every single thing. There's most things in the world I have 0 understanding of. So, like, my scope is just so
Right.
small compared to what is needed to really build a big
Yeah,
successful
but you're a
company,
humble
so
individual, Henry. The thing I want people to take away of what's the alternative, right? Brian Chesky in this podcast that he does that kind of instigated this concept of founder mode talks about how they don't have a chief product officer because he sees himself as the chief product officer. He's the one that understands
wow.
intimately how they need, what direction they need to move in, how the product needs to work for both hosts and guests. And in so many ways, I have no idea what it's like to work there. But just hearing him talk, I agree. He's been there since the beginning. He has all the institutional memory. He is the one that has been like all of these things that he's talking about as evidence of why founders work better in these roles than managers. I could see that for product for him, right? It's establishing whether or not he needs to be also the CEO and whether the CEO should also be the
Yeah.
CPO is the question. And I think that's the question to ask yourself as a founder, not because it's you should be putting the cart before the horse about what if I ran a 7,000 person company, how would I do it? You're not doing that probably. If you are, again, comment down below. But what role do you feel you are have unique skills and unique interest in, and continue to follow that, and then get everywhere else, like everything else, bring good people, right? Like people you trust, people you work well with, and do that slow. I think a lot of what Brian Chesky is talking about in terms of kind of the collapse of their company is so much also because of like the blitz scaling mentality. Of course, you're going to lose connection and not have a good organizational structure and not maybe hire all of the best people for the best roles in if you're trying to hire like 2,000 people in 2 years or 3 years. That's
Yeah.
just of course. So, just food for thought.
Definitely some good
Mhm.
takeaways there. I think, yeah, it's product is awesome because it's such a
Yeah,
collaborative field, right? You're able to really get into the weeds, but is that where your chief executive should be?
especially of a public
There's
company.
other things
Yeah.
beyond. Yeah, there's more beyond just product. It is super important. It's where I love to
Mhm.
gravitate towards and coming up with ideas and running companies, but yeah, the idea that every founder should limit themselves or every executive should focus strictly on that, I feel like could be a distraction from the bigger
Mhm.
picture.
Yeah. And again, product is most central, right? Your product is everything. Your relationship with your customer is everything, and the relationship with your customer is your product. But yes, I completely agree that the person that's at the helm, right, of like the massive organization, right, maybe doesn't necessarily need to be also the person that is completely in charge of the product. Intimately tied together, right? Two peas in a pod,
Of
but
course.
maybe not the same.
Yeah, they're both in the C-suite, so they should be working very
Right.
closely together. I know that we both like to brainstorm new ideas, iterate
Yes.
concepts, launch ideas, get scrappy with it. I feel sometimes at least I rush to write a 12-page business plan or get right into hiring a designer to bring
Yep.
this to life. You've recently come up with an idea. What's a good framework with kind of the first steps of either validating or fleshing out that spark of
Yeah, totally.
inspiration?
So, like you mentioned, we're me, Keith, my co-founder, his wife, my wife. Like we were sitting at dinner over the weekend, and Chelsea, Keith's wife, and Sarah were commiserating about how difficult it is to keep track of the things that each of them recommends to each other. Um, in this conversation, while discussing these problems, I talk about how I've been thinking about this idea for a uh, recommendation management app or like a curation app, and not in any way pitching, right? In some ways, just like gauging the reaction of, is this anything? This is like a constant refrain between me and my friend group that I like always, is this anything? Right? Like I'm going to have 1,000 ideas all the time. Is this one any good? And you gauge the reaction, right?